Let's talk some Keeneland Friday, April the 21st. And like always, for me, I'm looking at the DRF daily racing form. Head to drf.com. And when I'm going through these past performances, whenever I do videos like this, I'm always using Formulator past performances. What's nice about the Formulator PPs? One click to charts, one click to race replays, one click to trainer statistics, one click to pedigree information. You can get the full body, or you can, just take a look at the most recent sample size, whatever you need. It's right there for you. drf.com. Those formulator PPs are the ones for me. So let's dive on in. Now, there's a huge carryover in the pick six at Keeneland on Friday. $859,000 plus into the pick six carryover. Now, the weather looks like it could be pretty bad this weekend, between Friday and Saturday. But for the purposes of handicapping videos, I never really try to project, because once you try to say if this race comes off or if it shows up wet, you don't know who's going to scratch, what the fields are going to look like, how the race and the pace is going to shape up. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to play it as if these horses are, in the body of the field, obviously. So I'm going to give you one that I like in the fourth, and then we'll take a look at races 7, 9, and 10, which are part of the pick six sequence there. So let's jump to race number 4. It's a dirt race. It's a maiden special weight for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They're going to go a mile and a 16th in here. Horse I like a bit is one that I've seen run a few times out here in California, and then most recently went over to Turfway Park, and that's the 2 Autism Community. So this horse debuted back in November of 2022, was really good coming from way, way out of it, and went down to Del Mar, tried the turf. Wasn't a bad effort. It was actually a pretty good group that she ended up facing. December 30th, she ran into a really tough horse, a sharp one named Ancient Peace, who came right back to win their next start race that was taken off the turf, but won that really impressively and earned a nice speed figure in doing so. So you sort of look at who this one has faced in the last couple of those races have come back pretty strong. The March 23rd race was really not bad. It was the first start since December, so the first start in 3 months, and was sitting about 4th or 5th in the 2-path, was in between horses, was in a race where they chased lone speed, and it was really a merry-go-round race. You can pull up the chart and see that the winner was wire to wire, the runner-up was sitting second, and the third place finisher was basically sitting in the third spot. So there was just no passing in that race whatsoever. Now she'll make her second start back off that short little break. She should be sharper in here. We've already seen this barn win with some limited runners out at Keeneland. This is a very good barn, the Jonathan Wong barn. They win with a ton of races up in Northern California and have good success when they send them down to SoCal as well. I think the 2 fits well with this group. Autism Community, 6-1. Anything 4+ worthy of a win wager here. That's race number 4 at Keeneland on Friday. So let's move to the 7th race. Another play for us. So I was just trying to talk about the races where I like horses that are big prices. And if I'm looking at a race and I think it's sort of logical, or I don't really have a strong opinion, most of the time I'm not going to bother unless we're doing like a full sequence analysis or doing some sort of a preview show for something else. But when I'm just giving out best bets, a lot of the time I'll try to give you the horses that I think can really help you out, or ones that I would really want to recommend to throw in to your pick six ticket if you're building one. Let's talk about race number 7, and let's look at the number 5, Magical Loot. So we can pull up a few things. First off, we can see that Magical Loot was very good in the debut, a runner-up back in July at Churchill in a maiden special weight race. That was going 6 furlongs. Stretched out on September the 16th, and, in the debut, had a brutal start, but kind of recovered pretty well, moved through on the inside, still was settling like towards the rear, well, about 7 or 8 lengths off. So we're still talking about the debut here, and found an opening, kind of tipped out, was really good second that day. Career start number 2 on September the 16th was a better start that day, was close up, but then all of a sudden in between horses and gets shuffled back. Horse who wins that day was named Betacudo. We saw a horse named Moon Magic Chrissy also in that race come back to win their next start. And it was some sneaky trouble for Magical Loot. Now, we have not seen her since September, so the layoff is obviously going to be something that you worry about with her, but it's built into her price. It's not like she's a short price in this race. She should have some of that improvement now, moving from 2 to 3. There could be some built-in upside. You look at her tab, steady tab to get prepped for this. And that this barn is certainly capable of getting a horse ready to fire off the bench. So it's great. We can pull up the statistics here and we can see days between starts, and we can go 180 plus. We can see that this barn's been 14% in a 5-year sample size. Certainly capable with the right type of horses, getting them to win. So I'm giving Magical Loot a look at distances like this at 6.5 furlongs in a race where going to be dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first-time starters. All 3 of the inside horses are first-timers. You have another couple, 6 and 7, both making their career debuts. Then towards the outside, you've got the 10, 11, also first-time starters. And for me, at least, a lot of times debuting at 6.5 or 7, it's not the easiest distance in which to debut. Usually these horses that have at least a race under their belt and a little bit of fitness can wear you down late. So let's throw in the 5 Magical Loot. If we can get anything over 5 to 1, we'll make a win wager there on Magical Loot. Let's move to the 9th race. This one is the Double Dog Dare. And in this race, Green Up is coming back off a long layoff for Pletcher. Green Up was favored in the cotillion. You have Interstate Daydream, who made her first start back. She looks like she fits really well in here, right? She should take a nice step forward, making her second start back. She has the benefit of the race under her, whereas Green Up has not raced in September. And then you have Hidden Connection. I feel like those are the horses that are going to take the bulk of the support in here. Hidden Connection was off for a while. I was going to say started this year, but it really wasn't this year, right? When she came back from the bench, it was still the end of 2022. It was November. She was third. She came back in her second start back. She crushed. Then at Sam Houston, she was a good second behind Pauline's Pearl. And last time out, she was a little bit overmatched just based on her price, right? The horses in front of her just a little bit better. This is a better spot for her. But the one that's intriguing to me and might be a playable price in here is Traverse. You sort of start looking at this filly overall, and she has not done much wrong. First few starts, all in big fields at Turfway. Didn't run poorly in any of them. She's off for a few months. She shows back up in a new barn, and she goes on the dirt, back-to-back wins at Churchill. Beats a first-level allowance group really nicely. Then she goes and tries a stakes race at Oaklawn. She has legitimate traffic that day, and then comes back in her next 2 easy victories. She was about 2 lengths off chasing Lone Speed last time out. She kept to the outside. She moved into contention without really being asked. Visually pretty impressive. Can she take another step forward here? She has to, right? And again, the price will be built in, because if Green Up shows up with a top performance, something close to that race back in August, not many can compete. Interstate Daydream's top race would be pretty good in here. Hidden Connection needs to improve a little bit. So obviously the 2 and the 4 are going to take a lot of the money for a reason, but the horse to me that's with upside, maybe one big step forward here, puts her right in the mix. That's the one, Traverse. And let's finish up in race number 10 with a price horse who I think is a little bit interesting. So Keeneland 10th race, the number 1 Mooncat, is a horse that we followed for a while. And sometimes these horses that you've had your eye on for a while, maybe you bet them once or they made you money, or you just kind of notice them getting in trouble. When I've watched all 4 of this horse's career and just been paying attention every time he ran. In his debut, a little bit better than looks, had some trouble, was chasing lone speed. The horse Dude in Colorado has come back to be a nice horse so far, and Mooncat's had to deal with him twice. Second start, first time on the turf, Mooncat is a winner. Breaks the maiden at Gulfstream. Honestly, on February the 4th, doesn't really fire that day, but this was a tough race. So the winner, Major Dude, he won, the Kitten's Joy, and then comes back in second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Candidate is graded stakes place, came back and ran in the Transylvania. Dude in Colorado, who he's had to face a couple times, is a stakes winner and graded stakes placed. Also came back and ran in the Transylvania. Congruent won the Battaglia. So this was a pretty good group that Mooncat just got beat up by. In the race most recently on March the 11th. So he finishes 6th here. But the horse who he's defeated by was a horse named Farbridge. Now, and keep in mind, too, as I'm sort of rambling and going back and forth, the February 4th race also is on a good turf course. So not only was it a very strong group, but just may not have liked the way the turf came up that day. Again, so keep in mind with the weather and stuff, but an excuse for maybe why he didn't run that well. But the Farbridge race, Farbridge is nice. 2 for 2. Incredibly impressive in both. So let's watch Mooncat. And he finishes 6th, right? So on paper, it doesn't look like he runs that good of a race. So he's a 4 in here. I thought it was a little bit better than it might have looked on paper. So let's watch him. Just a few steps into it, he has to sort of take up right here and kind of right about here. Well, and he stumbles, he kind of almost clips heels. He's in some traffic, and you see now all of a sudden he's a little bit farther back than where he would have liked. And after they bunch up and he goes into the turn, he's actually dead last at like 12th of 12 as the horse to the outside comes up on him a little bit and he gets stuck down on the inside. So, he's at the back, and this is just always such a bad spot to be and it's unlucky, right? He got kind of squeezed, pushed back, and then took a bad step, and now he's last on the inside behind traffic and can't even really go anywhere. Pinned in with the horse to his outside, can't even make one of those early moves to the outside if he wanted. Just nowhere to go. So he's waiting. At this point, he's about 7 or 8 lengths off. He's going to start to come into your view in a second. He's still behind, the 9, who the 9 sort of takes up right there, which we can't even see Mooncat, but that bumps Mooncat even farther back because he's right behind him. So here comes the 4 again, now down to the inside. In some tight quarters, but moving through pretty nicely here. Now watch him right here. He's got some momentum, and he's trying to hit this hole. And he just cannot get in between horses right here. As the 6 comes out, he can't get there. He has to angle out. Watch where he finishes with this next group of horses. Honestly, the difference between 6th and 2nd might have been him just not shifting out. And the winner was that very impressive winner. Let's watch just that finish one more time. So here comes the 4 with all that momentum right now. He's got all the momentum. Can he just follow the 9 right through? And he's going to beat the 6 who's tiring. Now he's got to shift out, and he loses all that momentum. I honestly think he could have gotten in front of the 3 and the 1 at least a little bit closer. And so when you look at the race on paper, you see that he finished 6th. Doesn't look like it was all that great. Earned a really good speed figure because the race is a strong one behind a nice horse. Blinkers on, get him a little bit more focused. Johnny V has not been doing well at the meet, so he'd love to pick up a couple victories if possible. Mooncat, the number 1. Mooncat in race number 10. So there's a look at a couple for Keeneland for Friday. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here. Best of luck, Keeneland Friday. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. That's what G Said Podcast. Anywhere you get your podcast, come and listen. We'll always put a lot of these videos that we have up. We'll put all the audio on there too. And make sure to play the races over at DRF Bets. And for all the information that you need, DRF